The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
All right, greetings. Welcome. This is Jamel Hardtman, Unfiltered. Myself, Jamel Hardtman, here with my boy, Larry Marshall Jr., former winner of the Bermuda Day Half Marathon Derby 2007, correct?
Correct.
All right. And congratulations. First, before we even get started, congratulations to everyone who participated in the Half Marathon Derby today. Larry, I asked you early on this week on the Daily Hour about conditions, like how much of a role conditions of the roads, the weather would play. Speak to us about conditions, because I know someone said earlier about wind versus rain. They prefer wind over rain. Speak to us about how the road conditions may have played today. And obviously, folks, we're going to get into the confusion around the winner of today's race.
Yeah, the conditions, I was listening to one of the broadcasts and they wanted the wind, they rather the wind rather than the rain.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, nobody wants a headwind. I wouldn't want a headwind for 13 something miles. And early on, the wind was a huge factor. As coming out of the east, and once it was going, they kind of said it. So the humidity is something that you can't really escape in May. I think that's why I'm a huge proponent for an earlier start, just so we have the best possible conditions for this time of year for the runners. But that's something that the committee is not willing to budge on. We got to an 8:30 start, but they don't want to go any lower than that. I just hope that we don't get worst case scenario, and it becomes another talking point, because we're kind of hurt now because of unfortunate talking point.
Yeah. And let's get into it. Let's get straight into it. So just want to give some context. Thank you to Stephen Wright, who had an article some days prior to the race. But let's be honest. Most people in Bermuda, I don't think I'm speaking out of order by saying this, but most people in Bermuda traditionally would go out and support fellow people who are running the race, right? They're not into the ins and outs. They're not running experts. They don't know well, at least I'm speaking for myself.
I get where you're coming from.
So, but people are always going to have opinions about things and that we're not experts at. But I was watching the race, and I'll just say it. I woke up, race had already started. The runners were in bay, right? And at the time, I believe Dennis, I don't know his name. I asked you guys and said Dennis. I don't know his last name.
Yes, I was trying to remember it and go over it. I cannot pronounce it, so we'll just call him Dennis with respect.
All right. Dennis, Lamont Marshall. We had Sean Trott was in the fray at the time as well. And as the race went on, up in flats, Lamont had passed Dennis for a quick minute. And then it looked like in Devonshire, what I like to call the Marshall way down there is Lamont began to drop back, or Dennis began to push forward. Now, throughout the race, the commentators were making, way that, basically, I don't want to quote them wrong, but from what I think I remember saying that the runner was ineligible to be the official winner. Like he couldn't be an official winner. Now, there are people who know the rules, some people who don't know the rules. Let's just go into the rules of the race, or should I read from the Bermuda article first?
Let's read from the Bermuda article first to give us a bit more context.
All right. So there was an article written by Stephen Wright, May 24th, 2023, and it says, I don't want to pronounce his name wrong, so I'll just say Dennis on Bermuda Day Half Marathon. And basically, former island resident Dennis believes 3-time champion Lamont Marshall is the man to beat in the Bermuda half-day marathon. So that was with Chris Estwanek stepping back. Now, it goes on to say Dennis actually lived in Bermuda from 2007 to 2019 before moving to Nova Scotia, Canada. Here's the thing. He finished second last year, right? 33 seconds behind Chris Estwanek. Remember that, because that's an important part of where this discussion is going to go. See, if he would have finished 10th, if he wouldn't have finished first, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But because he did finish first, we're having this conversation. So let's continue. So then it goes on to say he was full of praise for Lamont. But it goes on to say, as a non-resident, Dennis will not be champion even if he crosses the line first, a rule he believes the Derby committee should reconsider. Well, before we even get into whether the rule's archaic or not, he knew what it was before he started.
Yes.
The majority of Bermudians didn't. And for the majority of Bermudians who are tuned into the race, who are following the race, this was confusing. What if I mean, let's discuss this. How does this impact other runners, knowing that there's someone ineligible, like mentally? Is there if you're out there, you're running, and you've got 3 guys around you, you're like, well, at least 2 of them are not going to be eligible. I'm got this in the back. Like, how does it impact?
Well, I think at the end of the day, you want to just race whoever shows up at the line.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I would want, if it was me, I would want to beat, no matter eligible or diseligible, I want to beat everyone. It's just that level of competitiveness that we kind of have. Where it becomes tricky is once the individual that is ineligible starts to be a contender. You know what I mean? Because let's just say, even if he comes second, but he makes a move that everyone reacts to or doesn't react to, they still are involved in a important decision of determining who the race winner is. I think what I find most disappointing is that we've had previous examples, and last year was another year where they probably needed to say, you know what, let's make a definite decision, shore up this rule a bit, because right now we're kind of in a gray area. And the gray area has led to confusion, and some might even consider a controversy. And I think that's not what is needed, and that's not what was necessarily the intended. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And you're right. It's happened before. What, in the 70s? It's happened, right?
Yes.
Again, the rule's clear. The rule is clear. The rule is non-residents cannot be crowned official winners and receive the prize. But what goes into, okay, for instance, there's been suggestions online, okay, allow non-residents to wear different color bibs or numbers or something to separate them. Here's what really bothered me. I'm going to be very honest with this. It bothered me the way the TV coverage went, because the entire time, and I want to go back to what you said about it impacts other runners, right? Because let's say Lamont was, his running his race, but his making his decisions based on this other runner who's not eligible, even though he may not know that, psychologically, your job, as you said, is you want to beat everyone.
Yeah.
He's going to run a totally different race if this runner's not there versus this runner being there. Now, that could mean, oh, this runner's there, I want to beat him, risking injury by going too fast, knowing that's not your pace. I think I think people need to take a step back and just realize that this was not good, no matter how you think about it, and it was confusing. And I think right now, despite it happening before, again, we weren't talking about it last year when he came second.
Yeah, it was a non-talking point, and it only comes up when someone wins. The only other situation where I can kind of relate it to was when Chris Estwanek first became eligible, and a lot of people had issues with it. Well, some people had issues with it, and I was like, no, he fits the criteria. He should be able to run.
Yeah.
I think the issue is that we have to remove this gray area. You're either eligible or you're not eligible.
Yeah.
Make a decision. Hey, you're either a resident, or if you write in, even if you give a special exemption, if the special exemption is granted, then you're eligible to win everything.
Yeah.
Then and I think to your point with the television coverage, they went back and forth and kept talking about it. And then one time they made a decision to stop following Dennis and then dragged back to Lamont, and it was just it was just a bad look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it may be exacerbated for this situation from the 70s, because now we have things online. Everyone's tweeting, Facebooking, commenting on the official the websites, and it just seemed amateurish at best. And in an age where we want to try and show that we can compete and do things at a more professional level, it just didn't seem like we were up to the task today.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I echo everything you just said. We've obviously talked about this privately with our TDH crew as well. I echo everything you said. It lacked a cutting edge. It lacked professionalism in so many ways. The way that the gentleman said, well, let's go to, I guess, the producer and ask the producer. And you never showed the man again, right? You never showed him out front. I wanted to know what his time was. I wanted to see them come in, right? I think it was a disservice to both of them.
Yeah. To Bermuda.
Disservice to Bermuda. Again, one of our colleagues said earlier on in the TDH group that it's not the fact that we make these mistakes and get some of these things wrong. It's the fact that we don't learn from them.
Yeah. And look, it was very close to this situation last year. The gentleman came second, right? And whether you like it or not, if he comes 250th or 10th or 12th or second, we only talk about it when it means, because that's when it truly matters, right?
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I just feel that it's unfair, and they just needed to be very clear with the decision making. And if it's a rule, it's a rule, but the rule is a bad rule. It doesn't matter. And let me get this clear. People will obviously see the connection and think that I'm biased one way. No, all I'm saying is that let's make a clear cut decision, so we can get the best outcome for the day for Bermuda.
Yeah. And let me address that bias as well, because I think what we're seeing is you're seeing comments all over social media, people confused. It's not an anger thing for me. It's more confusion, and it's more, okay, let's make sure this doesn't happen again. But there are some people saying, oh, Lamont should be a good sport, knowing he didn't win, and give it. This is not on Lamont. This is not on Dennis. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
Folks, this is not on either of these runners. Let me be very clear. In my personal opinion, we need to do better. We need to explain things. Look, we're gonna Bermudians cheer on who they know in terms of favorites. They're gonna cheer on every runner, but they're gonna cheer on who they know. And I'm sure even people who are riding for Lamont are gonna say, "Yo, this was unfair. It's a disservice." It actually almost makes it seem like a joke. That the lead truck decided to stop following or covering the person who was out front. That's not even on them.
And so to get to this point, but who is it on? And this falls flatly at the feet of the committee. I think they've had some big blunders over the years. I can speak for myself. I've had some things where I was not impressed with the way how they've done stuff, including how they dealt with prize money. I spoke to another former champion, and they say every time it's a controversial thing within 24 for me, it's the committee. And when you have a group of individuals that don't really know much about the road running scene or road races, this is what you get. I have respect for what their families have done over the years for the race, but I think they need a bit of assistance, and I make a plea that the association comes in to help them or assist, or possibly even say, you know what, we need to take over, because what happened today was it was just embarrassing, and it needs to be better, and with respect, but at the end of the day, we cannot let tradition
Mhm.
be over be at a higher standard than doing evolving with the times and getting it right.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and that's something that I think as a country, as an island, we've always been challenged with. Tradition versus evolving into something, a better product. Folks, what are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on the result of the Bermuda Day Half Marathon? Good night to you, Mark Arthur C. Phillips. Traveling Chart is asking, who is the committee? So, do you know who the committee is?
The committee is made up of it's okay. It's under two families, the Tucker family and the Can family. I don't know exactly who all the members are, but I know it's usually from those two families.
Okay.
And I believe the chairman is Dr. Gina Tucker.
All right, cool. Traveling Charlie says, I would like to know the percentage of residents versus Bermudians. What do you mean in the race, Trotty? Because most people would think if the rule is must be Bermuda resident. You know what? I'm not even gonna say. I don't know.
But let me make it clear. Without the non-Bermudians, this race wouldn't be what it is. So many expat workers and or spouses of Bermudians that are non-Bermudian make up this race. So it again, this type of gray area leads to these types of comments that turn to be divisive. People are telling me today that when Dennis came across them, they weren't clapping. This is a guy that came to Bermuda, fell in love with the race, wants to come back and enjoys our island, our people so much. And now we're at a position where people it's caused a divide. And that's not what he wants. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to any of the other competitors. It lies thoroughly at the foot of the committee because this just should not have happened.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And I just want to emphasize and reiterate that we're not here to blame any of the runners. This, to me, this is a conversation to offer solutions to avoid this going forward. This is a conversation that we hope we don't have to have again, because again, for me, it was a disservice to the race, the participants, and the spectators. We should not be talking about this right now. We should be congratulating and happy and talking about all of the participants who were able to get out there in these conditions and run this race.
Yeah, we had a phenomenal female race. Two females going into Church Street. That hasn't happened in years. You know what I mean? And we're talking about this. Like it just we have to do better. And I don't know if they get the direction from other races. Do they study other races? Have they been abroad to see what things do? If they compare, I don't know what it is, but right now the way how this current rule is just not good enough because it leads to a situation like this. What happens if we get 20 more dentists next year?
Mm, mm. And that's a good point. So if we get 20 more dentists next year, and let's say all of them are on that elite level, right?
Yeah. And if they're eligible, I'm fine.
Mhm.
Make a decision. If you say Dennis has been here 10 years and he writes in for a special exemption and you give it to him. Or don't give it to him.
Mhm.
But be on either side of the fence.
Yeah, yeah. Because what happened today was confusing and an embarrassment. And I say that I'm got love for Dr. Tucker. So this is not me taking shots at Dr. Gina Tucker. This is literally, at the end of the day, there's nobody that probably takes as much criticism that's not involved in politics as me. I swear. And a lot of it is self, right? It's self-critique. But I think the point is sometimes we got to take that criticism and we've got to try to become better. We have to use it to say, you know what? That person was right. Let me figure out how we can avoid this next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rashima Swan says, I was one who was confused. So thank you for educating me. Valid point shared. Thank you, Ms. Swan. But let's talk about that. So, all right. And I'm not going to ask you where you stand on it. But the rule is you must be a resident of the island for at least 6 months. All right. Well, this gentleman, according to reports, was a resident of Bermuda from 2007 to 2019. Maybe put a rule in there where someone who was a resident for a certain period, they can also participate once they leave. Maybe, as someone suggested online, saying that, okay, why don't we do something like have runners that are not residents to different colors or something like that to separate them? Or, because Larry, you made a good point that it's going to go over a lot of people's heads. Without expats, this race would probably be very bare.
Yeah.
So we don't want to push people away. We don't want to take the excitement. Just, some people were saying, oh, maybe it's because it was coming out of the East. There's not as many Bermudians out watching the race. I mean, I think the weather had something to do with it as well.
Yes, the weather had something to do.
The weather had something to do with it. But I'm going to say it. There are a lot of Bermudians who have left Bermuda, and it always comes up. We are a people who literally need to embrace everyone at this point. I'm not saying accept anything. I'm saying embrace everyone. This race, we understand the tradition, the history, the culture of it. We understand how some Bermudians believe it should be Bermudians only.
Yeah.
I get you. I mean, we had an issue years ago with cup match with Salim Muckenden, I think his name was.
Yeah, it comes up between May 24th and cup match all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All it takes will be a breakup performance that is non-Bermudian in cup match,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be having an unscripted talk about that and seeing the thing. While I appreciate is you're not going to please everybody, but the rule in cup match is clear. I think right now, to answer your original question, I will say where I stand on it is I just wish they would remove the gray area. You're either not able to compete, or you compete and you can get every prize, including the prize money, and lift the trophy.
And I think that's the only way to go from here. I don't think having a separate category, I don't like that idea because it adds more confusion, in my opinion.
It adds more confusion.
I am a proponent of saying we either say it's only for Bermudians and residents of Bermuda, or we say we'll allow exemptions for and whatever parameters that's around. But I just think, and I'll repeat, you know me, and people who don't know, I go to Larry. I'll be like, I'm no expert. I know my limits. I don't know all the rules, but I was upset, and that's why I tweeted what I did. What did I tweet? Because I forget, but I tweeted not in anger or disgust, but confusion. And I want people to understand that. It was more confusion. Let me go to my so I tweeted, I think I just witnessed one of the dumbest things ever. Yes, there are rules, but why would someone who isn't eligible to participate, why allow someone who isn't eligible to participate? Now, I should have said who isn't eligible to win outright. That's what I should have said, right?
Yeah.
I think it's easy to misunderstand people when it comes to typing on the internet and Twitter especially.
Yeah.
It's very easy because I think people are missing the point. The point is, look, I use this example in the Daily Hour. I use it often. When you're in sales, the whole point of sales is to answer the objections before the person can ask the question. This is such an avoidable situation. All we're saying is today was another lesson, be it 40 years later. And as Larry said, you got an idea last year when he came second. We wouldn't be talking about this if he weren't out front by, I think, 2 minutes.
Yeah, give or take.
This is not helping Bermuda. This is actually, as Larry said, is divisive.
Yeah.
We literally got people arguing on the news story. Oh, keep it Bermudian. Oh, why is not winning? Putting Lamont and Dennis in bad spaces. And I like what Dennis said earlier. He enjoyed the battle with Lamont. He don't have any issues with it, but it's not on them. It's not about them, but the spectators. was
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I want to kind of drive home is
Mm,
the to the committee, seek help from people that really know the sport, that love the sport, that do this for a living. I understand that it's been passed on and it's a level of history, but road run is something that I love. You know what I mean? And so many people just really are about this. You know what I mean? And to see it come to this is just disappointing,
mm,
and poor. And if the association needs to come in and say, hey, we need to shore this up because
mm.
they sanctioned this race, but that's just not good enough. If I'm a sponsor, I am disappointed
Yeah,
at the outcome of this
yeah,
because at the end of the day, it's like, well, what am I getting behind? This is again, like I said, amateur hour at its best.
yeah, yeah. Let me ask you something. If and I hate to put you in this position. Obviously, you didn't run. Had you been involved in this race, top 3, 2, 1, whatever. I hate hypotheticals, but I'm just gonna ask you anyway. How do you think you'll feel any different right now?
If he would have ran the race, and I'm not understanding your question.
If you were in this race,
Hmm.
because right now he was basically a pacer, right? He was the
Yeah.
pacer, right? Let's just call him what it was. If he wasn't eligible, had you been in this race, do you think you would feel different? Like, do you feel like, oh well, the rules are the rules, or would you be fighting to say, we got to change it because it was confusing for the spectators and many? What do you think you'd have the same position? I guess what I'm asking. And
If I go straight back to my competitor mind, I would have thought I came second to somebody today.
Mhm,
And I probably wouldn't have even gotten into whether he's eligible or not. I would just would have been in my head that this guy beat me today, and I probably shouldn't let him beat me today. You know what I mean? Like I ought to give him the trophy and walked off. Like not walked off in disgust, but I would have took that as it wasn't my day and I got beaten. But I think to to kind of to put both of them and the other athletes in this position again just keeps coming back to like we need better decision makers to avoid this situation.
yeah, yeah. Let's wrap it up. I mean, anything, an audience, you can let us know if you have any thoughts on the result of the Bermuda Day Half Marathon today. Let us know. But to wrap it up, um, you know, next year's race out of Somerset, you expect this to be different based on today?
I hope so. I really do hope so. I was talking to a top runner today, and they said next year nothing will change, and I really just hope that they learn from it. I think I'm hopeful that it's not a pride issue, and they go ahead and make a change because if you go ahead and make the change, then you kind of admitting that you kind of got it wrong, right?
Mm,
Let's just do what's in the best interest of Bermuda. I think it just created an unnecessary divide and a level of confusion that took over something that's just supposed to be joyous for us all. You know what I mean? This is the runners. The runners of May 24th. Like everybody comes out to whether you go to the parade or not.
mm.
People come with the boats inside Hamilton Harbor. It's the runners. You know what I mean? And it should not be overtaken by this confusion.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think I concur. I agree with what you said. Again, let's learn from it. Let's ensure it doesn't happen again. Rashima Swan says, I hope you share your views / feedback with the committee if you haven't done so already. So, folks, let's get this. Make sure that everyone who enjoys this race, part of Bermuda tradition, our cultural history, let's get our feedback over to them. I agree. It's something that we can learn from, something that we can ensure doesn't happen again. Traveling Trotty says, I'd like to see live video coverage of the race. There was live video coverage, right? That's what we were watching.
Yes, on yeah, it was live video coverage
Yeah,
on a Facebook page. I don't want to call the company
yeah,
and
yeah.
all that stuff.
It was live. I mean, I don't want to get into that. That's another conversation. I maybe better coverage, but what I just want to say this before we head out. congratulations to every last person who participated in today's Bermuda half marathon derby. It was definitely, the conditions were very, very interesting. And I say interesting as a person who takes jogs every morning. And Larry would tell you, if it's raining, I ain't playing. So congratulations to every last person who participated. Congratulations to the winners, Lamont Marshall, Dennis for his who came third. Was it Sean Trott? Sean Trott, third this year.
Second. I don't know. However you want to classify it. You get what I'm saying?
Yes. Lamont first, Sean second. Obviously, Dennis out there. Congratulations to everyone. And big shout out also to everyone who participated in the parade, despite the downpours, the crazy weather. You all are the real MVPs. You kept the culture going. You said, ain't no Mother Nature, not today. We're going to do it. We're going to have fun. We're going to celebrate who we are. And so props to you, because I know it's not easy. A lot of young people have been waiting for this day, just like the runners, waiting for this day. It's once a year. It's once a year that you get to celebrate part of the art, the athleticism, the culture. That is Bermuda. So congratulations to everyone involved today. I really do hope that, we can have less issues going forward, less confusion, and, more things to celebrate. I think we're out. That's it, Larry?
That's it.
All right.
Bermuda Day.
Happy Bermuda Day. We're out. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell.